Welcome back to second episode of Kopitiam Council. And for this episode, we're going to talk about something not really a current issue, but has been happening since 2011 when NASA actually giving out contracts to one of America's biggest company. What am I talking about, Adi?
Okay, so for the uninitiated, you would think that the space race or the war to space ended during the Cold War. But like Haffisz mentioned, in 2011, NASA was giving out contracts to two of America's biggest aerospace companies. No, actually, wouldn't say biggest. One is the biggest, one is one of the biggest, and the other is just a startup company. So this ongoing space race is between two companies, which is Boeing and SpaceX by Elon Musk, have been going head to head over who can be the leading company for NASA's space programs. So, in the around 2017, I think SpaceX, as a startup company, was able to inch over Boeing. Boeing lost a lot of its chances to win the space race in a way. So with now, but Boeing is still trying to capitalize on it. They're still pursuing their aspirations to be in NASA's good books here, planning to launch its Starliner capsule that will ferry two NASA astronauts to the International Space Station. So it's a very new production for them, which most can say, if you those who know, has came too late. They were 5 years, 6 years late to the party here. SpaceX has been able to provide all the technology, the rockets, to send the astronauts to the International Space Station. So, what we have here is that SpaceX has already flown 9 crewed flights for NASA since 2020, 4 with private astronauts. But in terms of the Boeing Starliner program, this has been delayed for 7 years and has costed them $1.5 billion more than they expected. So even if Starliner is able to dazzle NASA with this kind of mission, it may be too late because the International Space Station is planning to be decommissioned in 2030, meaning that Boeing could only make a maximum of at least 6 more missions for NASA. So they still have one more chance to prove that they are probably the leading company in terms of this. But can they take it back? What do you think of this?
Well, this whole race again, Adi, it reminded me of a classic American history of Wright brothers and Samuel Langley. For those who do not know, Wright brothers are the so-called the inventor of modern flight that we have today. And Samuel Langley, at the time, was a government figure, academician, someone that public figure that very well not known of. So all he had to do is, says that he wants to make a flight, and anyone, a government, GLCs will pour him money as much as he wants. Who was first to make a flight in the air? It was Wright brothers, from a private entity from somewhere unknown in their garage, doing the most, whatever they called it, trying to survive, and they came up with a airplane that we have today. So this is, I think, something similar. SpaceX was a startup status company back then, in 2010 or prior to that, up against Boeing. Boeing at that time had almost 100 years experience, funding in aviation. So this is a David and Goliath story all over again. This Starline was supposed to be embarked in 2017. They are actually 7 years late, while SpaceX already kept developing a Falcon 9 and then the Starship that can actually be reusable. Starline that they're about to launch, I think today, by as we record this in US time, cannot recycle their rockets, while SpaceX already, been doing it. Yes, some of them are successful, some of them not. But the fact is, they did it. While Boeing, which also right now at the moment, had a lot of scandals now especially in the aviation sector, where there's a second whistleblower also got killed because of they are, related with the case with the 737 issue. Boeing is, I can smell something very, very bad hidden in the closet of Boeing here. So the fact that this Starline gonna hinge on a lot of successes that we're gonna see from Boeing after this. If they fail this attempt with all the scandals and everything, I don't think they can survive this. But if we can make a successful launch today, that should be, at least like a cushion for a certain period of time for them to resolve all the issues. So I think this is very contentious on Boeing side. For SpaceX, I think with Elon Musk at helm, they're pretty relaxed. They are, in terms of software, they're very, very solid. Elon Musk himself is a software engineer. So, this is again David and Goliath, and the result is David is winning.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you brought up the whole whistleblower. It's just been a very bad year for Boeing, with all kinds of structural compromises to their systems and all their hardware, and then whistleblowers suddenly mysteriously dying for exposing a few flaws in the company itself. And it's very fishy considering that I think this is an organizational rot happening going here, not a lack of innovation. Because in terms of software program design, I think Boeing still has a leg up against SpaceX here, because what Boeing has free reign to do is that they also award military contracts. Like Boeing itself, as an aerospace company, doesn't just deal with anything commercial, but they also deal with military hardware. They are the main contractors for the program designers for the F-22s. They are retrofitting the F-15s, and I think they're also in competition with Lockheed Martin for the F-35s, which is planned to be one of the most advanced fighter jets in the world. So in terms of innovation and technology, I think Boeing can have more latitude in terms of what they can experiment with in their R&D facilities, and they do have the resources to do so. But it just goes to show that there must be something when it comes to management here. And I think why this whole mysterious removal of whistleblowers is just for the fact as well, like I mentioned, Boeing, as an aerospace company, also deals with military hardware. And they're essentially merchants of death in some regards. You can consider Boeing as manufacturers of weapons, of arms, to declare war on countries in the Middle East. They have participated in that. And of course, there's going to be a whole moral quandary in terms of doing business with Boeing. SpaceX doesn't have that, how do you say, it doesn't have that baggage. I mean, maybe you can consider Elon Musk's semiconductor processing or whatever being linked to cobalt mining in Africa, but in a way, Boeing gets a lot of leeway in a lot of things, so they can get away with many things because they are an essential player as well for a lot of not just the American economy but the global economy. So now, even though I just said that Boeing contributes to a lot of misery in terms of weapons production all over the world, if they fail, that would be a huge blow to aerospace and the aviation industry, because being one of the biggest participants in the commercial aviation sector, them failing and not being able to produce or keep up with the times means that there won't be many companies to fill that gap. I don't think if, let's say, Boeing falls, I don't think Airbus can compensate completely in that market share. So it's a very tenuous situation for Boeing. And I think this is why they're banking a lot to proving that their Starliner capsules into space is something that's worth investing in. I think they're trying to prove that they still can be competitive. Because what this tells me, let's say I'm an investor into Boeing, I would definitely pull out my investments, my shares immediately, because this seems to be, a noose around my neck for my money. And this is I think Boeing is very desperate here. They want to make sure everything, PR wise or technology wise, has to be perfect. And they're running on very limited time. They have about 6 years to make sure that their whole space travel, commercial space travel, is perfected. If not, I think SpaceX will be the defining aerospace company in terms of space travel in the coming decade, in like coming from 2030 to even 2040. Because I don't think there's any American commercial company that's able to replicate any of this.
100% agree with you with that. And that makes Boeing is too big to fail company. And this is classic American bailing out companies like Boeing because no one can be in their shoes. So certainly this is a not just Boeing problem, but systemic problem with dealing with government funded company. Like you said, also this Starline, it's the actually partnership with Lockheed as well to launch this Starline this evening, this today. Having knowing all of this, Adi, I'm just not surprised that they get a lot of contract, like you mentioned, military contract, aviation contract, whatever. Even this from NASA contract, and it's despite the Boeing was favored by NASA due to I think almost double by what contract that SpaceX got in 2011. Yet there was no result, and no one criticized Boeing like never before up until recently, when it caused a lot of casualty with the commercial aviation that got a lot of heat by the investigators and also by independent journalists. So these are the kind of thing that we dealing with, and Boeing needs to step up to its plate and really try to innovate, because like you said, they have a lot of luggage. This is a more than 100-year-old company. I'm sure the luggage is really, really big. But like we mentioned also, how SpaceX is a new startup company, is very fragile, but at the same time also flexible in terms of their costing, how they can make very cheap rockets and yet it can be reusable. So this kind of very attractive proposition, especially to NASA, when they look at, it's clear favorites now is SpaceX, and Boeing is left behind, almost done and dusted, if I may say, especially if they fail for this Starline launch today. So it's very, very huge endeavor for Boeing moving ahead, especially 2034. No positive news, I think, for Boeing in the last 12 months. So that's very worrying if you are a shareholder of Boeing, and looking forward as well. So you're not gonna sleep if you're a shareholder for today. You're expecting a successful launch when you wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a shareholder that was like you were told and promised that this Starline capsule would have been launched 6-7 years ago, and then well, here we are. But I guess that is also like when it comes to expectations of technology here, is that I think like you just say, public, I don't, maybe not the business or money people, but I think we've come to expect technology to be way more advanced than it really is. I think we've gotten to this idea that we think Elon Musk is like Tony Stark or as Iron Man, that he can do whatever done in those Marvel movies, but definitely not. I mean, Elon Musk being a tax evading billionaire, eccentric billionaire, is not a perfect person. And I think Boeing's fall or SpaceX's rise, I don't think that is a great symptom for any, because at the end of the day, these are big corporations headed by very eccentric billionaires who don't care, who don't pay taxes, who evade taxes, and even worse, evade taxes, spend all their money to just all kinds of weird petty things, and just trying to, like, buying Twitter, renaming it just more as a power move. At the helm with it's not going to be a great situation anyway, because it's still big corporations here that dictate what we consume in our lives, and not letting a lot of these smaller players to flourish, right? So who knows if, let's say, Boeing's expense, SpaceX becomes the premium contractor for NASA, will Elon Musk finally fulfill his dream of moving to Mars? Would that be a happening? Would it be in the plans in the next 50 years, 60 years? Because I'm not going to be like Elon Musk and say that, oh, setting up colonies in Mars can be done in the next 10, 15 years. I think you must be very insane to even think that is possible, right? So it's it would be like, how would you say, a new age where eccentric private entities, right, are able to dictate how we move when it comes to exploring the final frontier, as you call it, and then promising us all these weird visions of the future, which, if you are a bit realistic, know that it is not possible at all. And this would definitely be very what can you say, a very good sign for a lot of the other eccentric billionaires. Then every eccentric billionaire would be like, oh, I want my own space company now. I also want to be part of the space race as well. And then we see all kinds of not just from SpaceX, but who knows, Richard Branson would maybe make another attempt with Virgin Galactic. Other, maybe Jeff Bezos would want to colonize the moon first, or even Mars before anybody else. So yeah, this is just, I'm not like being serious about this. I think this is just something to get in mind, because that seems to be the trend now, that big corporations are more powerful than ever, and they uh, now they're just trying to diversify into the space race. Essentially, what used to be the states, the countries, and nations that fought for the space race, now it is the private companies, I mean, not private companies, like commercial entities that are participating now. What next? Will we see private entities, like private individuals, like me and Haffisz, developing our own space program just by ourselves? Who knows?
Well, don't count out the countries yet again, Adi, because just recently China national program, space program, launched a rocket, unmanned rocket to the darker side of the moon to take some samples and bring it back to lab. So this is another very ambitious endeavor by the Chinese to do something that never done before. So this is again China projecting its soft power by showing, like, this is classic. If you're gonna be superpower, you must at least launch one rocket to the space. Otherwise, your superpower status is not, it's not legit. So that's why I think China doing this, spending money, like, because last time Soviet and US had each other, so they benefit from this rivalry. China now at the moment, it's not really a tense competition like in the 50s or 40s, but even on their own, they try to make something that never been done before. And going to the side of the moon is definitely something that never been explored before, and that's what they're gonna do. So the level of difficulty that they're going also for, it's something that they're respectable in the industry, and I'm sure SpaceX and Boeing also keeping a close eye on this if they really successful in doing this, because the only thing that can firm or can make sure that we will be able to do more successful exploration in the space is that by cooperation by Russian together with China, America, obviously now with private entity from America doing this so that we can propel ahead. Also with India as well, like, because in the recent years they very proudly announced that their rocket launching design, whatever, part of their team actually from women. So this is very proud month for the Indian space industry. So there's a lot to talk about, not just about the rivalry of SpaceX and Boeing, but more to the other. But of course, these countries don't make headlines, especially to the Western journalists. Especially if you own a social media company, of course you're gonna post your own stories, right? So that's what we're gonna read about. It's just SpaceX everywhere. Elon Musk is this, Elon Musk is that, while evading taxes as well. So that's 1 billionaire at a time that we have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean,
Any
like
any yeah.
when it comes to other countries, I think what was really robbed was the Gambian space program. I don't know if you've heard of Gambia's space program, Hafiz.
No, I've not.
So during the Cold War, this is just a fun story for everyone. So during the Cold War, Gambia wanted to be part of the space race as well between the US and the Soviets, right? So this, how do you say this? This former participant in World War II, a local Gambian, came back after learning very advanced mathematics, ballistics, and all kinds of things from the Western powers. Decided to come back, set up a space program, and it was funny because the office for that space program was wherever he was working at the time. So if let's say he was cleaning up as a janitor in some government building, then okay, the space program is going to be meeting over there, and it was. And like the training was quite funny to see, was that they had to simulate 0 G gravity. They had to be sitting inside like big barrels and then get rolled down the hill. And it was funny because when some Western journalists went to cover the story, they made it sound like as if like, oh, look at these primitive people with their primitive understanding of space while we're so ahead. And I think it was funny. I think the person behind this was doing it as a whole elaborate joke just to make fun of like Westerners, saying like, haha, you think we're stupid, but actually it's us laughing at you thinking we're stupid. So, I mean, Gambia is obviously, I think, would be the next space superpower. And I think they were robbed. A lot of the secrets were stolen by the Americans and the Soviets at the time. So, just a fun fact that not just it's not between Asia or Europe or Western powers that are in on the space race. Africa as well was once a participant in the space race. And we can even look at Malaysia. We had our own astronaut as well. Dr. Sheikh Muzaffar sent up with the Russians as help. So who knows? If it's true that Elon Musk in Tesla is willing to invest in Malaysia, then maybe he can also invest in our space programs as well. Because I think we still haven't given up on that dream. We still want to be a leading player in the space race itself, in exploring space. And like you said, if you are able to be sent into space, it is a huge prestige for you as a country in being able to successfully launch somebody into space. So Malaysian space program still got ways to go. Definitely cannot beat Gambia. I think so.
But to be fair, before we're going to talk about our ambition in the space program, Malaysia need to focus on their PISA scoring system, where we are not excelling in that particularly.
So I think the only rocket that will be launching is DAP's rocket. Then in the next election, who knows?
Perhaps maybe 50 years from now, people are talking about like how Malaysia back then is like Gambia trying to do space program, but they couldn't even grasp the basic knowledge of science. So that's gonna be a joke in the future if we do not fix our education system. So that's the episode that we talked from this, and I think this is it for our episode of a space race in the blue sky. And if you are listening this on YouTube, please comment down below what are the topics that you would like to talk about. We would like to talk about next. And if you're listening this on Spotify, please answer polls that available on down below. If you prefer short format content, please log on to Instagram and TikTok. We have less than 1 minute content for your pleasure of viewing. With that, I'm Haffisz, and
this is Adi.
Goodbye for now.